we got some feedback from these videos, and somebody was asking us to tackle heterogeneous network and the challenge that either a private or a public operator has with that kind of network. Um, and what is it? What can we do to help and whatnot? And we have touched on a prior video, but we didn't drill down. And I think this is a great opportunity for you to share some thoughts there.
Yeah, so I think, Louis, we like to think of networks as homogeneous, and many times we might be fortunate to have a homogeneous experience, but they are heterogeneous. You have, for operators, they've got multiple vendors, and each vendor has their own system. And they have these different systems, and then internationally, that could have been driven by, historical regional regions. So their challenge is, with all the different people in their organization and all the different tools, how do they actually see what's going on? How do they correlate information? I think that's some of their biggest challenges.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think there's the mindset of the public network that are not homogeneous. But then when you get into the commercial or enterprise or industrial or IoT, it gets even more complex because there's much bigger scaling and much bigger number of devices. I mean, so are you? Where's your thought on how does it affect the IoT world?
Yeah, so I think when you look at IoT, I mean, the number of things connected to the network is growing exponentially. And so the operators need we talk about a single pane of glass, a single view of understanding that experience, and help them isolate issues that let them still leverage all those, I'll say, those more vertical QoS type tools, right? So they need something that tells them, where is the problem in my network right now? Where is it coming from? And then they'll go take their existing specialized tools. So I think you have to automate this for them, so they don't need to have meetings with all these different people with tools trying to talk on a phone. I see this, I see that. Just want to automate all of that. And I think that's when we talk about the quality of experience visualization. It's about automating and then basically directing them to which tool that they need to use to troubleshoot the problem.
Yeah. I think we've compared it to a hospital emergency room at one point, where if you get into a ER and they plugged you on a bunch of machines, they see all kinds of stats about your body, right? And they can make an educated decision as to what do they treat first, second, and third. So you're saying that we're providing them this one screen, one pane of glass where they have visualization of what's going on in their network, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what they're looking for.
Good. And this is regardless if the network is like a single vendor or multiple vendor or different technology. This really is from one end to another, correct?
Yeah, I think all networks have a multitude of what we call QoS tools, right? Or something that might look at voice, something that looks at video, something that looks at data, something might look at layer 3, something at layer 4. They have all these different specialized tools, and they need to know which tool to use, which is where the problem is. So I think we automate all of that for them. We simplify single pane of glass. You're having a problem in a RAN in this region of your network, or there's congestion in the core, or there's a problem in this data center, or it's at the app layer, or listen, there isn't a problem with the network, it's actually the sensor, right? You're having a problem with the set of sensors, that's why you can't access it. So being able to take all that guessing work out, just tell them the answer, here it is, and here's what's happening. I think that will help them as they scale their IoT offerings and their utilization of IoT technologies.
So another point that also is really important, I think, is as it gets more complex, and you just said it very well, look at this, look at that, look at this network management, look at that one. How important is the role of the automation or the analytics doing some correlation for the person in front of the screen, so they don't have to all compute this in their head, but they have pre-digest correlated information. So is that more important in heterogeneous network than an ideal network?
Well, I don't think there is an ideal network. I think that's a fallacy. homogeneous as an experience you want. There's so many networking technologies. There's migrations. There's, you know, the greenfield network only exists in the presentation material. It doesn't actually exist in real life. So you have to deal with the diversity, the changes that are going all the time, and being able to automate that, figure out what's going on automatically, just tell them, here's what's going on. And that can be, here's what's going on well, which many times it is, and then here's what's not going on well. And, you know, when we talk, you know, subsequent discussion, we talk about QoE and scaling quality of experience as an example. We'll dive, I think, more into the importance of that. But I think they need an automated tool that tells them here and now what's going well in the network and what's not. And when it's not going well, where's the issue in real time, right?
Yeah.
Not, and being able to, you know, potentially later after an issue's been resolved, being able to run some analytics on it. I think, you know, you and I talk, analytics are everything. So analytics equals automation, right? To me, they're one and the same. They're synonymous.
Yeah. Well, Michael, that was great. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts in another session of Cheetah's Corner. And have yourself a great day.